Welcome to your magic moon message, ladies and gentlemen. This is your host, the Peace Dealer. The moon is in Taurus. The sun is in Libra. We're breaking through. I hope you're enjoying this breakthrough period. We are currently harvesting in the season of harvest. And I just hope the next 3 months for you, I look forward to the next 3 months for you being jam-packed, quite amazing. Coming into Sagittarius season, through Scorpio when it'll get spooky. Please don't think it's a coincidence that when we enter spooky Scorpio season, Neptune will have retrograded back into Pisces. Okay? Revenge of the Delulu arc. So it's going to get very... All right? No matter who you turn to in any space, all places of people is just Delulu everywhere. Everyone's going to believe they're so certain. And it won't be after that arc we realize with new information. Anyway, that being said, before this arc kicks off, we have the moon in Taurus making its 210 degree angle to the sun in Libra. And relative to that, this is going to apply the cardinal function and motion through the moon in Aries. We had this full moon, and it is served to remind you and break through of this developing individuality and authenticity. We blended and balanced authenticity with class, or authenticity with altruism. And now we are, of course, taking this authentic understanding and we are naturally grounding it. So now that relative to the hour hand being in Libra, we have projected our awareness socially. The moon going into Taurus, given that Scorpio signature, seeks to apply this physiological understanding our values, and how this understanding of our values transforms your social dynamics, with which we do every year, except this year, Uranus has left Taurus. So after we apply this natural groundedness, we're going to go into Uranus in Gemini, and then reactivate this innovation of mindset, of our ideas, kind of gain this 28-day recap, understanding now what moving forward, how we will apply this innovation to these social spaces. I would say next month it's going to go back into Taurus. So actually, yeah, Scorpio season, we're going to have a full moon opposition to Uranus. So be mindful of that. Okay. Examine, of course, since now this Scorpio signature is other people's money. 8th house, other people's money. The moon in Scorpio that we had 2 weeks ago, which manifested a psychoanalytical understanding, a psychological understanding, manifesting the wisdom, right? Peering deeper and understanding deeper nuances and layers of nuances relative to manifesting this applied social awareness, is now being juxtaposed 2 weeks later with investing that wisdom with this natural understanding. What was social is now this individual understanding transforming your social awareness. And now that intangible sense of wisdom and quality from 2 weeks ago you manifested, how are you breaking through the transformation of this harvest, investing that wisdom into natural spaces? So the way I like to look at the 2nd house Scorpio, 8th house Taurus axis is 2nd house Scorpio is you have oil, right? You have unfiltered, pure crude oil. And then through Aquarius of technology that now enables you to know how to work with it, you invest that oil, 8th house Taurus, into gas stations. Taurus now being physical and ready for consumption, right? Actually being ready to be consumed. This is where you're investing your oil, your sauce, your wisdom into, of course, these gas stations, into these pumps, these individual stations or part of a franchise. That's one way to see it if we're gonna look at infrastructure. But as far as this is concerned, especially with Mars and Mercury that are now in Scorpio, the moon opposition to your brain processing, Mercury in Scorpio, and then your sexual desire and your action orientation, Mars in Scorpio, opposite the moon in Taurus, is not only harvesting the previous conjunction of 2 weeks ago, but now this natural grounded understanding is like a solid grounding anchor with which will enable you to peer deeper in, to probe deeper with your thoughts, to desire deeper with your actions. We have this understanding of grounding that once the moon goes into Gemini, we can now, of course, understand how our brain is developing, how our thoughts are developing, what thoughts based on these values, which will seek to transform social understanding. Remember, all of this is harvest. So all of this is now your experience of breaking through this social awareness, realizing what more you can do. And that's what revisits back to this full moon, because this understanding of authentic power through the moon in Aries that you're now grounding in Taurus is going to be felt physiologically. Taurus ruling your natural 5 senses, bridging to Virgo, which is the mutable perspective and perception of the experience of your 5 senses, versus just the quality of smelling, hearing. That's all Taurian. So you are understanding how now this application of strengthening this, as we do once every 28 days, with the hour hand in Libra, is actively transforming your social awareness. I mean, even think, if you smell sharper, if you hear sharper, if you're operating off of adjusted values or strengthened values, then the way I interact with other people is going to reflect that. Especially if I change that, it's going to transform that. And then, of course, based on that foundation, when we go into Moon in Gemini, that Sagittarius signature of vision is going to show you the meaning of communication patterns, of what you're saying to this social awareness, to these social actions. Okay. So yeah, this is going to be really good for wealth. This is going to apply, once again, maybe this more innovative sense of your value of yourself, what you find valuable, how you apply this to relationships with others. And I'm only using that, of course, as a keyword. Libra is a lot more than just relationships, agreements, debates. But regardless, however it is you apply this, now that the moon has gone through Chiron and the sun will oppose Chiron, this is going to be showing you so much more into people's egoic vulnerabilities. This is going to account more for people being more triggered because you're clashing with their strongly held beliefs. It's not just one transit that shows this, but we can see through a transit like this being so much more aggravated. This reflecting in passive aggressive ways with which people seek to insult your intelligence or insult maybe whatever behaviors that get in their way of being able to influence you and manipulate you and persuade you, revealing more the intent behind what people really want to use you for and how you may inadvertently be getting in the way of that, versus now seeing those who clearly don't have an ulterior motive against you, and it reflects in their behavior too, and everything in between. Because I'm not saying it has to be that or that, but this is going to be an amazing period to really note that. We also want to take into account the moon in Taurus squaring Pluto in Aquarius, okay, and the T-square that now Moon in Taurus, Mercury in Scorpio, Pluto in Aquarius is creating. Pluto in Aquarius at 1 degrees is seeking to make obsolete, a whole lot of theoretical models, especially scientifically, we've had since 248 years ago. And in the next 248 years, we'll do it again. So this is awakening more progressive, knowledgeable quality that pushes forward, challenges a lot of previous understanding, awakening elements of humanity that allude more to its supernatural potential. And in a way to make this make sense, everything that you were told was science fiction, you're unraveling a lot of which most is no longer fiction, okay? And this is where now the Moon in Taurus grounds this higher knowledge through your 5 senses in practical, tangible ways. Hence, you will notice throughout the next couple of days a tangible, practical transformation in the way moving forward you will be engaging with people, communicating with people. And I don't want to call this necessarily a void year, but with Saturn and Neptune still retrograding back in Pisces, you actually want to enjoy this illusion, right? This passage of time. Things are going to pick up very quickly. End of Sagittarius season coming in the next year. So the rest of the year, literally allow the delays to occur. Literally allow whatever happens to happen. Let things move slowly, right? Let things almost betray your expectations. All you need to do is adapt. That's it. But understand that quite literally everything that you could imagine is happening behind the scenes. And I don't mean like behind just the curtain. For everybody. All the development that everyone is going to be changing and going through is happening behind the scenes and beyond your ability to perceive. So that's why if you're looking externally to see evidence of what you're doing play out, you're really just betraying your own perception when the whole thing that's being tested is your belief, is your faith. And obviously not faith in bullshit, right? The South Node in Virgo is making sure that what you're believing is aligned with what can be, reproducible, replicated, actually integrated practically, but it still leaves you room to be delusional as fuck. I'm gonna be completely honest. It leaves you room to be wrong and make mistakes and adapt from them, okay? So just be mindful of that. Once again, especially with this egoic vulnerability and people having to be right about everything and know everything. That's really behind, not the only thing, but especially because the radical things people are saying, most of which are out of pocket, really just come from a lot of people's egos and it need to be right. All right. So when you kind of remember that, it'll help you avoid ego traps and going back and forth with people who don't want to understand where you're coming. They just want to be right. They already have a prejudice, a bias, a pre-diagnosed whatever of what you are, who you are, what the situation is. And it doesn't matter how much evidence or proof or demonstration you show them, they're set there. Let them be set there. Don't necessarily forget maybe what role that might play in transforming your interpersonal relationship, activity, dynamics, character. All right. Regardless, once the moon goes into Gemini, this is going to show you intellectually how your language patterns and language structure is changing to accommodate now how we've transformed, harvested, and broken through this element of your character on such a glorious 2025 year. Mind you, the main point of this year with Saturn and Neptune entering Aries and Jupiter entering Cancer is that we are integrating the next version of your character. So we have spent the past 3 years since like 2022 into 2023 activating this next version of you. Jupiter conjunct Sun in Aries, Jupiter conjunct Sun in Taurus, Jupiter conjunct, well, it never conjuncted in Gemini, but it conjuncted at the end of Taurus, went through Gemini, Gemini's leveled up. That was the activation, evolving the next 12-year cycle journey of your identity in Aries, your value in Taurus, your thoughts. Now we're integrating in Cancer, while Saturn and Neptune are taking everything you have initially activated around the qualities of who you're, this next version of yourself, and now having the integrity to maintain authority of that, adding authority to that over the next 2.5 years with Saturn, 13 years with Neptune. Okay, so with the moon in Taurus, really be receptive to the ulterior ways and the passive aggressive ways with which other people, societies of people, collectives of people seek to undermine you, because you do not let them manipulate you, because you do not fall into their box of persuasion or understanding. And look at that as a victory, because only someone threatened is going to do that. Nobody real could be threatened. Let the moon in Taurus, the earth sign, remind you of reality, of realness, the quality of realness. Virgo is the experience of realness. That's why they're obsessed with facts and research methods. And then Capricorn is the collective power of realness, like collective representatives who create laws and or corrupt. But like the quality of realness through your senses, the moon in Taurus is going to update this, which will transform the way with which you relate with people, and do it again. For the next couple of days, you get to feel like Childish Gambino, or insert another moon Taurus, Libra sun, which I think is cool. So yeah, that being said, we are still within the harvest phase. The moon's going to go into Cancer after Gemini. That will produce the effect of this harvest, and then we'll feel what that success is. So until then, this is the real part of the breakthrough. The moon in Aries was supposed to get you hype, bring up some anger, some unresolved pain or ego issues, and now you get to smooth them over, ground them over. The opposition, a Scorpio, is going to enable you to, with these values of grounding, peer much deeper psychologically. And that T-square to Pluto and Aquarius will continue to unveil secrets of humanity, secrets of the collective, right? Knowledge that still hasn't necessarily been accepted, that you'll increasingly be able to put more into words, but it's still in the beginning stage, right? It's still not, you have the final understanding of such, but will still put you in a position to begin to apply towards your relationships with others. Everything, of course, you are breaking through into understanding will majorly be picked upon next year. So please don't feel like you have to get it all figured out this year. Just let it rise up. And that's the whole Saturn, Neptune out of Pisces. You know, just kind of let this old stuff phase out. All systems go next year, but don't push yourself too much this year, because that will, in a sense, if you're expecting too much out of yourself, in a sense, you're not necessarily having enough faith that you already have this worked out. And that's between you and whoever. But other than that, fully expect certain interpersonal relationship dynamics to completely transform today and tomorrow. And then you will see what you'll communicate about that and how that means relative to how this changes the way you talk to people when the moon goes into Gemini. Because this will be the first Libra season in over 85 years that we have the moon conjunct Uranus in Gemini, that we even have Uranus in Gemini since the 1940s. Facts. So that's what's going to really shift things very unconventionally. And if you get too caught up in passive aggressive ways that people will undermine innovative ideas that sound crazy at first, then you'll just get caught up in ego games when all you got to do is just demonstrate it. And you're going to have the ability to do that. There's going to be a subconscious feeling of doubt where there's cognitive dissonance. People won't be able to manipulate you, and they'll just shoot ad hominems and names at you. They won't be able to prove it, right? Everyone who thinks that I might be a pseudoscientist doesn't know their moon sign, and they cannot find one person I scam. So that's why I don't have to really go back and forth. It speaks for itself. You guys stay blessed as always. Peace.